sure many of you guys have had those days. You wake up in the best mood. Now, I know some of you guys personally, and that whole best mood happens like once in a blue moon, but for I think everyone, there are those days where we wake up in the best of moods. We are ready to take on life. You have a smile on your face. You're like, feel that nice breeze. It's going to be a great day. And so you walk out into the living room, and that's when immediately your parents start getting onto you about, not washing the dishes, or you left your clothes on the ground. But that's okay. It's not going to get you down. And so you walk to school, except, it's California and there's traffic everywhere, including apparently foot traffic. And so you get to school late and you roll in late, and it's already kind of a bummer day, but you're still happy. You're still smiling. Life is great. And then you reach into your bag for your homework and realize you left it on the table in the kitchen, and your teacher doesn't believe your lies anymore, and you really needed it. But that's okay. Not going to get you down. You go to your next class, and it just so happens that the teacher is having the worst day of her life, and you are the one that she decides to take it out on. Not going to let it get me down. And then you go to the next class, and you find out that there was a pop quiz that you weren't ready for, thus you didn't study for, and thus you failed really bad, which means there's going to be a whole new round of conversations you're going to have with your parents when they get home. And then you're leaving school, and as you're walking out, your pants for some reason get caught on the railing, and they tear all the way across. And by the time you get home, what started off as a happy-go-lucky day, you sound more like Eeyore by the time you get home, saying, will this day ever end? You wanted to be in a good mood. You wanted to start the day off right, but it seemed like everything that happened to you that day dragged you down out of that mood. Has anyone else been there, or is it just me? We've been talking about this idea of feeling disconnected. Last week we talked about how there are those moments in life where we feel like we are disconnected from God. And while everything we're going to be talking about over the next couple weeks still has to do with our relationship with God and our relationship with others, today we're going to continue talking about a different area that we can feel disconnected in. If you go online to social media, it's a hot mess right now. It is. There are so many people, so many fights going on. Everyone is tearing each other apart. And then you turn on the TV and it seems like the news is only worse news and worse news and worse news. You look outside like I did this morning and you just see smoke filling the air because we live in California and the whole state is on fire. I think one of the biggest reasons for us feeling down, for us feeling beaten up, for us feeling depressed or disconnected, is because that there is a lot of negativity surrounding us. And as I said, if you were that person that started off the day great, it was all those negative things that brought down your attitude. And for some of us, we are feeling this disconnect, this depression, this all these different emotions because there's so many negative things happening around us. And the truth is, if you are experiencing that or you are feeling that, you are not the first to feel it. So I want to talk to you today, guys, about how we can live in this life and not become overcome or feel disconnected by the negativity that is around us. You see, while there's a lot that you can't control, because you can't control what's happening in our government, you can't control what's happening in the world, you can't control the economy, you can't control the fires, there is one thing that you can control. And it's a huge thing that you can control to change some of the negativity that makes you feel disconnected in your life. In Matthew 12, starting at verse 33, Jesus is confronting the religious leaders, the pastors of the day, and he says this to them: a tree is identified by its fruit. If a tree is good, its fruit will be good. If a tree is bad, its fruit will be bad. You brood of snakes. Imagine being a religious leader called that. Brood of snakes. Whew, that is quite an insult. How could evil men like you speak of what is good and right? He's addressing them and telling them all of this stuff. You are a brood of snakes. You are slithering. You are grouse. You are trying to weasel your way out of stuff. You are causing more division than anything. But then he says, and this is what I want to focus on, for whatever is in your heart determines what you say. And this is a famous verse that is used over and over again. What is in your heart determines what you say. But the truth is, it's more than just in what you say. Because what you fill your heart with determines what you think about, what you stress about, what you feel overwhelmed by, what you obsess about. It's more than just in what you say that comes out of your heart. But the truth is, so much of what we dwell on and what we go over and what we live in comes from what we are filling our heart with. So the question I have for you guys today is, what are you filling your heart with? Well, I said earlier that we can't control a lot of negativity in the world. There is one thing that you can control, and that is your heart. You can control the negativity that you consume. One of the examples would be social media. I'll be honest, I have to take regular breaks from social media just because it is a bit too crazy now. I mean, it just seems like people are looking to fight on a constant basis to tear each other down. I've seen friendships ruined. I've seen relationships ruined. We just seem to attack each other. I could post a picture of Ava online of her smiling, and then one person pops up this comment, and next thing you know, there's this whole fight and 60-something comments because of a picture of Ava. People are looking to fight. And the truth is, we are consuming social media a lot. I don't think an hour goes by where I don't see people that I know, even you guys, checking on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Snapchat, on any of these social media things. And the truth is, while there's some happy-go-lucky and nice stuff on there, we are also consuming it so much that we are being bombarded with the negativity. Or maybe it's not the negativity, maybe it's the pictures, or maybe it's what people say that they are doing. We start comparing ourselves to what they look like and who they're hanging out with and what our friends are doing versus their friends. And wait, this was my friend, why are they hanging out with this person? And we start looking at the friends and the activities and everything like that. And the truth is, if we're not careful, social media can fill us and put us in such a state of constant negativity, and yet we enjoy going to it. Out of a habit for us to scroll and tap. What about the things that we watch and we listen to? Now, there are some shows that in my book are fantastic. I have watched The Office about 100 times. Okay, not 100 times. In all seriousness, I think I've finished the series about like 10 times. I'll go into the kitchen and start doing dishes and I'll put it on. Why? Because when I watch that show, I walk away so much happier. That show makes me feel good. And then there are other shows that we watch and we turn on and they leave us depressed. Have you ever watched a show where you walked away after a couple episodes and you're like, wow, I like this show, but I leave more and more depressed every time I watch it. And yet what do? We go back and we watch it. If we're dealing with negative thoughts and emotions, I would challenge you to be careful on what you're consuming media-wise. There are some things and some shows that as Christians we should not be consuming. We should not be watching. Now, this is not a message to say go and throw out your TV, throw out your video game systems, throw out everything because it's all the devil. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sometimes if we are living in a constant state of negativity where it's making us feel disconnected, maybe we should look at the things that we are allowing to listen to and to see and see if those have an influence on how negative we are feeling. I know firsthand that there's a lot of music that when I listen to, whether it's the topics or the language or more, there is certain music that when I listen to it, it drives me deeper, almost into a state of depression. It changes my attitude. It changes my thoughts. I mean, if we're being honest, if you're listening to a lot of music that's filled with cuss words and talking awful about each other, if you're watching TV shows or movies or things on the internet that are degrading, that are filled with sex and nudity and gratuitous violence, And then we walk away and we wonder why we're so angry, we're so upset, we're so depressed or overwhelmed. It's a lot of times because we are consuming and filling our heart with these things, and out of those things is what is flowing out of us, out of our thoughts, out of our actions. What about what we talk about? I mean, I have found more and more that with so much negativity around me, I am spouting out negativity so much easier. And maybe you found yourself in the same situation because there's so many negative things going on. You find yourself with one group of friends bad-mouthing and talking bad about another group of friends, or maybe not talking bad about them, but you start sharing some of the hard things that they're going through and some of the crazy things that they're into and all that kind of stuff. Or maybe it's when you're around your friends and others that you just tear apart your family. You are so negative about your parents and the way that they act and what they're doing and what they're thinking, your mom and your dad. You tear down your brothers and your sisters because you just hate them and you despise them and you allow the negativity to flow out of you. Or maybe in school, whether it's in school in person, or maybe you sit down by the computer and you just sit there, and the minute you sit down, you're like, this isn't happening. I'm not good at this. I'm not going to be anything. I'm going to fail at this. And guess what? The more you tell yourself that, the more likely it's going to happen. Because you are building that negativity. What about yourself? How often do we look in the mirror and say or think things like, I'm ugly. I hate the way that I look. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. I'm too hairy. I'm too balding. I'm too gray. I hate the way that I look in this. No one's ever going to love me. I don't look like this person. I hate these things about me. And we start looking ourselves, and maybe we're not saying it, but we're thinking those words, and we're thinking all of those negative things about ourselves. Can I tell you the truth? Your words have power. It's just like any superhero tale will tell you, you can choose to use that power for good or for evil. And if you are being negative about yourself and about others and allowing those words to flow out, then you're just adding to that negativity in your life and adding to that disconnect that you feel. The truth is, when we say those things, when we believe those things, it surrounds us with even more negativity. The truth is if we look at that verse and it talks about your heart and what you fill it with, our heart can only be filled with so much. I have a water bottle here. It's almost filled to the top. Now, this is almost filled. There's still a little bit of room. Now, if I decide that I would rather have Gatorade in this bottle than the water, or if in this case it's my heart, and I start pouring, I'm not going to pour here because I'm going to make a mess, but if I start pouring, the truth is there is only so much space here. And after a while, something's going to be spilling over. Our hearts only have so much room. They can only be filled with so much at a time. Think about it this way. Do you have a friend that just makes you laugh? Anytime you're around them, you start laughing, even for the stupidest reasons, but you love being around that person because they make you happy in that way. What about the people that you hang out with that just make you feel good about yourself? They have a way of lifting you up anytime you hang out with them. See, when we surround ourselves with those people, it affects us. In the same way, when we surround ourselves with negativity, it can affect us. And if you are allowing your heart to be filled with all these sorts of negative things and there's only a little bit of room, guess what? You're not going to be letting any of that positivity, you're not going to be letting God fill that heart. And so when you have anger and upsetness and disconnect flowing out of you and negativity out of every pore of your body, and we wonder why, sometimes it's because of what we've allowed our heart to be filled up on. So I would challenge you guys today. Change what you consume. Change what you allow your heart to be filled with. It starts with positive things. If you are surrounded by negative, start hanging out with those people that make you feel better about yourself. Start hanging out with those people that make you laugh. Start finding your time in the Word. Start finding your time to spend things that actually make you happy. Start turning on worship music. And even if you have it playing in the background of the day, find some great worship music that you can really rock out to and start playing that and allow some of that positive music to allow God to work through the music and into you. Talk to God daily, even about the negativity. As we talked about last week, let him be the one that you run to. God, I am feeling negative. Fill me with your light. Fill me with your love. Fill me with your joy. Overflow within me. Run to God instead of running to the negativity. And speak life over yourself and others. If you start looking at what you're saying throughout the day and what you're talking to people about and the thoughts that you're having, and you start realizing that, oh my goodness, there's a lot of negativity here, then start choosing anytime those negative thoughts come in to speak life over that person, to speak blessings over that person, to start speaking positive things over them, to pray for them. And the same is said when it comes to us and we start feeling those negative things flow out of us about us. Start praying for yourself. Start encouraging yourself. Start talking to God blessings over yourself. It's time that we start washing out some of that negativity that we've allowed our heart to be filled with and consumed with, and instead allow God to fill it with his love and his light. Allow ourselves to, instead of feeling disconnected from God and disconnected by the negativity, to connect back with him and with others, because we are allowing God's positive influence within us. Allow him to fill your heart, because it can affect what we are like, what we do, what we say, and what we think. What is your heart filled with today? God, I pray that you would be with each and every student within the sound of my voice, and that you would help us if we are surrounded by this negativity, if we just feel ourselves being dragged down by it on a constant basis. I pray that you would help us to release it to you, and instead to start going through and cleaning the closet of our life and say, okay, I'm not going to start listening to this again if it's going to drag me down. I'm not going to watch this if it's dragging me down. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to go on these sites because it is dragging me down, and instead allowing our hearts to be cleansed and filled with you. Help us to be life and to be filled with your life. In your name, amen. All right, guys, as always, we love you. We miss you. We can't wait to see you soon. Bye.